And welcome everyone. We are live tonight on a book and a beverage, and we are honored to have Angela Boord with us.
Yay!
Angela was SPIFBO 5 second place finisher to the Sword of Kaigan, if I remember correctly.
Right. Yep.
So
We prefer
welcome to the
silver
show.
medalist.
What's that?
So we prefer silver medalist.
Ah,
Yeah. Runner up.
Right, don't go for that. But
and Bert Struble is in the house, so we can start now.
oh, Bert.
Angela, what are you currently working on? Let's start there.
I am putting the finishing touches on book 2 of the Atarian Empire series. The title is Fool's Promise. That's the sequel to my SPIFBO 5 finalist, Fortune's Fool. I am almost ready to send it out to my proofreader, hopefully by the end of the week. I mean, cross your fingers, but it's almost done. So
nice.
Is this part of a series?
Yeah, it's book 2. I don't know. I've always said that there'll be 4 books, but I write very large books, so there might actually end up being 5 in this one because I had to end this book sooner, like at a place sooner, or otherwise it was going to be like, 500,000 words or something. And not that it's not small, but it would have been even bigger.
500,000 words is like my first whole 6-book series. That's crazy.
Yeah, this one I've cut it down to it's about
Oof.
320,000 words right now. So
Oh well, yeah, it's a little pocket read.
yeah, I know. It's just a little afternoon read.
Is this your meticulously researched? Mike and I were talking earlier about some research that you'd done.
Yeah. I like to research, and like this is one of them. This is a Renaissance inspired series. So
tell us a little bit about your research. It sounded pretty interesting what Mike was saying.
Oh, well, I for Fortune's Fool, I spent way too much time researching silk and traditional silk production, and watching YouTube videos about how people spun silk, and which I don't know, I enjoyed it, and I actually cut a lot of that out of the book, which people should probably thank me for. But it's the stuff that got left in. It's Kira, my main character, grows up. It's kind of Renaissance Italy, sort of northern Italy, kind of Venice inspired, but she grows up like on a silk plantation. They have mulberry groves, and she gets in trouble and has all of her, she's a noble, she has all of her titles stripped, and then she ends up as a serf on her father's plantation, like helping to make the silk, produce the silk. She only, at that point, she's lost her right arm, so all she can really do is, they used, like, in order to get silk, the silk threads, they had to boil the cocoons and then pull them apart with well, women usually did this, so like with fingernails, and so, but all she can do is, like, she's got the worst job, which is like stirring the boiling cocoons in a giant vat. And I don't know, I like finding out all these weird little gruesome details about things, because those are like, I latch onto that. I'm like, oh yes, I'm putting this in a book, this is like going in there. But
well, yeah, I suppose if you're writing a story about how far she's fallen and everything, all of that comes in is sort of kind of interesting, the drudgery and odd of the life she's now leading. That's, aren't you glad you live in the age of the internet where you can look all this stuff up?
I know. And when I first got the idea for the book and kind of started, like, it was a long time ago, and then because I took kind of a break in the middle, I produced sort of it's a very rough draft, but then I kind of took a break from writing, and I threw everything in my closet, had a bunch of kids basically, and then when I came back when they were a little bit older and I pulled it out, it was like I had written it like well, the internet was around, but we didn't have like YouTube, and I had written it like pre-YouTube, and then when I took it out, it was like YouTube was there, and I was like, wow, this is so much easier, I don't have to like go down to an actual bookstore or library and try to find a book, and I can just watch them do all these things. So that
But
was
ironically enough, though, you probably spend more time doing that quick, like, oh, I can quickly look this up and watch
it's
it.
like a rabbit.
But you probably spend more hours going down that rabbit hole
Oh yeah.
on
Oh yeah.
YouTube.
I went for this one. This one I was watching like videos about how like in the Renaissance how they cast cannons, because they made cannons out of like bronze. Because the Renaissance is really interesting to me because it's such a transitional period from like swords to guns and like all the things that happened because of that, and people weren't used to, they didn't know what guns did too much until they were used like with
mostly back then
armies.
they blew up in your face, right?
Yeah, they did often.
Kind of
And before
exploded.
then, like even if they didn't have the guns in like the Italian wars, they used a lot of just gunpowder, and they would make lines and they would light it off. And so it had a whole host of effects. Like it had injuries that nobody was used to treating because swords cause, like gunshots would like destroy people's insides and their bones, and
Right. There's no tissue left to sew together.
burns, right, stuff like that. So it was, it's kind of interesting to me, and I do get caught up in that, like, and I ended up, even though I watched all those videos about casting cannons, I cut that whole part, but I think it'll be in book 3. So it's
not useless.
It was cool. I really liked describing the foundry and how like the smells and how it was kind of like, kind of.
From a purely selfish standpoint, I am really glad to know that what I did as a kid was really recreating historical things, as we would take model boats that we were sick of.
Oh yeah.
And load them with the black powder we found in my dad's basement and draw long lines of black powder or gasoline on the ground and light them on fire and watch them explode. But I'm glad to know that there was we were actually doing historical reenactments, so that's cool.
I'd put that in a book. I don't know. My teenagers are interested in, a couple of them are interested in like blacksmithing and stuff, and have gotten into that, and they built a forge out of rocks behind our barn, and unfortunately limestone has a lot of water in it, and they got it really hot, and I mean everybody had like safety equipment, was standing back, but one of the rocks exploded, and then we went and looked at real forges, but they like all's well that ends well, but yeah, don't maybe use limestone in your forge.
Well, it's like those videos you see on YouTube and TikTok where it's frosty and cold outside, and some moron takes a thing of hot water and like says, "Oh, this is a great way to defrost your car windshield."
Oh yeah,
that's a great way to replace your car windshield.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who have done that, saying, "I saw it on TikTok; it must work."
Yeah, don't.
So I will warn you, because in my novella I just published, my character goes into a rope house because I'd never heard of such a thing. So then I had to go down that rabbit hole of how they're very long and narrow, and how they put the fibers there and they twist them clockwise and others counterclockwise, and then they wrap those. And oh my God, fascinating stuff. Don't go down that rabbit hole unless you have a week.
Yeah, I know. It's just like, I don't know. It's fun. I have a bunch of, books and stuff too. I get like, but I know when I'll spend, I'll be like, well, I don't know a lot of stuff. And so I'll get involved in all the research and stuff, but then eventually I'll get antsy and I'm like, okay, I gotta write this down. And then I'll, like it comes like, it's like 4 sentences or something, but I don't care. I did a lot of that, ended up like the soap research. Like I had to figure out, I was writing and I wanted a scene, and I'm like, well, what does Renaissance soap smell like? Like what? And then I had to go figure out how people made soap.
Did you make some?
I didn't make soap. I knew a little bit about that, but I didn't know like what they used in the Renaissance, like what kind of things. And it turns out there's like, what's it called? It's like 5 thieves or 3 thieves or something. There's like this blend that they thought was like drive off plague and stuff. That you can buy it. Like people make it, like you can get the scent and you can buy, and it's very clovesy, you know, it smells like this.
And that's
very
what a farmer's
strong.
market is for, because there is
Right.
almost certainly some hippie at a farmer's
Oh,
market
right. Oh,
that
yeah.
knows exactly how to do that.
Definitely, you know, so yeah, so
Okay, we're going to cut John off here soon.
Ugh. So, Angela, on the previous time we were together, I found out what your degree was in, but I was fascinated by it. So, what'd you get your degree in?
yeah, I have a bachelor's in anthropology, and I did a little bit of graduate work, but then I had kids. So but yeah, so I have a degree in anthropology. It's kind of more of a cultural emphasis. I was going to do applied anthropology with it because my parents told me I should do something practical, which, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. I was young, but
Anthropology's right there on the
yeah,
practical scale.
on the practical, it was applied though. That made it more anyway. So yeah,
I'm laughing, but I have no idea what it is. So,
well, it's like people do like in government policy and stuff. You do use anthropologists to go figure out about like what they did a lot of medical anthropology where I went to grad school. So they were trying to be like in educational programs and you know, stuff like that. Like the groups they were trying to target, they would say like, well, what do they really think? Like I had a professor who he liked to eat, but also he was very interested in what he called food events. So like because they were trying to change, like it was like diabetes education and stuff, like trying to change groups, different groups, like response. Well, what does food mean? Like what, like, you know, it's not just like the stuff you put in your mouth. It's like the people you eat with and the, you know, your celebrations and stuff like that, and like people's ideas of beauty and everything like that. So they, you know, the government does use a few, like some anthropologists, and then like I had a bunch of archaeologist friends, and they were doing like historical contract archaeology. Well, it's not just historical, but they were doing contract archaeology because I was at the University of Maryland at that time, and you know, there's just a lot of historical stuff around there. So anytime, like if you're digging, building a building or something, and you accidentally dig something up, then all the work has to stop, and you have to call an archaeologist in, and they have to see what's there. They only have like 3 or 4
love that
months.
out here.
Yeah. So you know, but I probably in retrospect should have gone the archaeology route because I find that very interesting, and also I'm very introverted, and you don't have to talk to many people because, you know, those my friends would be like, they're all dead, it's okay, it's for introverts.
Make up stories.
So El Montague wants to know what your area of specialty was in anthropology.
I actually, because I was trying to do something more practical, was going to go into educational anthropology, which was working with the schools on how like things like you know, kids with disabilities and special needs, like how those are you know, like regarded, and how programs should, you know, like there are a lot of preconceived ideas about what different conditions, different needs mean, but a lot of those preconceived ideas are wrong. So I was a tutor when I worked my way through college as a tutor, and I was like really interested in that. So no, it was actually, I see it pop up. It was like introducing kids to the idea of anthropology, studying kids in schools. Well, it wasn't really that. It was more like trying to help policy be made in schools to help kids more by studying the way these things were given to kids, like it was the way teachers and kids interacted and stuff like that, because of like the cultures of schools, basically. And
so, like in the 50s, they would have studied how nuns wrapped you in the hands with rulers and things like that.
Yeah.
70s and 80s, they still did that, Ro.
Yeah, I say 50s. I wasn't
too.
around in the 50s. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that old. Yeah.
No, I went to Catholic school till I was in the 6th grade.
So we've all shared that
Yeah,
pain.
right. The yardstick. They were good at it. But yeah, so that was the theory that I was going to do because I, had been told to do something more practical with my life. So, but then I ended up having a bunch of kids and homeschooling
You
them
keep saying a
instead.
bunch.
9.
9?
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you like have them as a litter?
No, I did have twins, so I guess that counts as a litter. Like I thought about that when I was
So
trying to survive twins.
I haven't had that reaction from Mike yet. I thought he was going to spit something out of his mouth.
That close.
Oh,
That-
man, sorry.
No, but
So
yeah,
you had one set of
Fine.
twins, and the rest you had
yeah,
one at a
time. Yeah.
Oh. Bless you, my daughter. My God,
Yeah.
what? I'm the youngest of 7.
Oh,
so
really?
it's like,
Yeah.
what are you thinking?
Yeah. It's never boring. Like my oldest 3 are in their 20s, so they're like 2 of them are out of college, and then one of them's still in college, and then the other 6 are still at home. So.
Right? Yeah, EL. She's making her own, her own kind of cohort group
Yeah.
to look at there.
I know. I
And
got
you
my
gotta,
own.
like, that's a proper baseball team.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have 7 boys and 2 girls, so they're mostly boys.
Wow.
You're so lucky.
We have to be much nicer to her, Mike.
Yeah.
No,
So you're just
know.
on the show right now just to get away. You just
I mean,
have
it's
an
nice.
excuse.
Yeah,
Nobody
they're
bothered me
watching their
for
little
3
sister
hours.
out there.
What's that?
They're watching
Filthy
their
fun.
little sister out there. So
Wow.
yeah, 7 boys.
Did you have to have a lot of boys before you got to the girls? I'm sorry, we're not talking
No,
about books at all here, but it's kind of fascinating.
well, yeah, no, that's okay. I'm used to it. So I had a boy and a girl, and then I had boy until the very end, and number 9's a girl.
So just a string of good luck in the middle.
It was a string of boys in the middle. And they're all kind of jammed up together. That's the twins are boys. They're 18 now, so they did survive. They are still alive. I mean, as of today, not
2020 must have been just horrible for you.
It was, it was a lot because the the only person that actually came home that wasn't at home, because my oldest was taking kind of a gap year after trying to figure out what he wanted to do after he graduated college, was my daughter, who was still in college at the time, and they shut down, and then she had to come home, and then everybody else was still here. But it was kind of a lot, but it was tough because then my husband had to, he came home to work, and we didn't really have a place for him to work, so he was like basically working in the middle of we have someplace we call the computer room, but there's no door on it. We had like no doors on any of the rooms that you could actually do work. Like I mostly, until very recently, I did all my writing at the kitchen table, like out in the middle of the kitchen, and I still do about half of it out there. But yeah, so it was tough. But on the other hand, my husband, he's kept working at home, and so we actually, when everybody kind of, now that when my 3rd kid went to college, we could rearrange the rooms, so we actually made a bedroom into an office that my husband and I share now, which is nice because I get a desk finally.
I can just imagine his Zoom calls. They'd be like everybody else on the call, see all these kids and everything going. It's like, are you hiring extras or what's going on in the background there?
Well, like in 2020, I did QuaranCon. Virginia McLean did, the online an online con in like April of 2020, so that we could all kind of get together and have a con when nobody could go to any cons. And he was, well, let's see what he's going to be like. So he was 7 at the time. My 7-year-old would keep running in the background of all my panels, and be like, ah! But he's a little nuts. So everybody got to see him.
Do you have a board on a wall somewhere? My parents, of course, my parents are like 90. but they have a board on their kitchen wall that has like everybody's birthday on it.
Oh no,
So they
I
don't
don't.
so they don't
Actually.
forget it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Like my husband never remembers. He can't remember everybody's birthday, but I do pretty well with it. And then my daughter also is very good at remembering everybody's birthday. So so yeah.
Ah.
But I don't need them written down, but although one of my like number 7, I get the day and the year mixed up sometimes, just because the kids group like there's a bunch in March, April, May, and then there's a bunch in October, and then the ones that are kind of off, like they're a little harder to remember because they don't have any, like you can't remember them as a group.
Special occasion babies.
Yeah, he's in the middle of June, and it's just a weird place. Like,
Okay, so I have a question that's actually
A real
literature
question.
based.
Okay.
So why did you decide to become a fantasy author?
Oh,
Because she has one kid. We've been covering this.
Because she had nothing better to do with her time?
No, well, because I grew up reading, not entirely fantasy. I was like a suspense, like spy novel reader, like for a lot of years as a teenager. But I liked fantasy. I like read Dragonlance, and I started writing when I was about 11, and it wasn't fantasy. It was like like I read a lot of Black Stallion books and like stuff like that. So it was more kind of in that vein and like the mystery kind of thing. And then I kind of went into like spy novels and, like Robert Ludlum and stuff like that. And then I don't know, I started reading fantasy. And then when I got to college, it was like more, I kind of shifted more into the fantasy novels and kind of decided to put, more of my characters and fantasy plots, I guess. And it's fun. I like to make things up. Like writing in the real world is difficult because you have to get everything right, like you can't make anything up. So when I'm in fantasy and I'm using like when I'm doing research, like if I want to change something, then I just can. So it's, that is kind of, I guess I'm lazy, but I like magic and swords and
Magic is
capes
the
and
ultimate
stuff.
MacGuffin. It's like, why? Because magic. It's great.
Right.
Research? I don't need no research. Magic. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Ro. I got
Wait.
19 questions written down, so I got
We've been talking some okie dude. We don't need to hear that, man. I was born in 2001. I had a son born in 2002.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Kids.
we've been talking to a lot of the SPIFBO finalists this year, and about what they'll do should they reap the great rewards that come from winning SPIFBO. And you came so close. What would you do if you won SPIFBO?
By one SPIFBO?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's I think that when you look back at the various winners, they take such different paths that it's kind of, I don't know, like being a finalist, like any of the finalists, just being a finalist puts you up and like actually helps you out a lot. Just it doesn't really almost matter what place you are. I think sometimes like some of the winners have, they've maybe gotten a bit more attention in certain ways, but I don't know that that there's a way you could say, well, if I won SPIFBO, then XYZ would happen, or I would like, or I would like do these things. Like, you know, maybe the book would have gotten a little bit more attention to it, but I think that it got, you know, a fair amount of attention anyway, just from being a finalist
Right.
and what it was. So I mean, I'm not sure. And I don't know, like, if you look at Sword of Kaigen, I think that book would have done well whether it won Spiffbo or not. Like, you know, people just loved the book and talked about it a lot. So, you know, there's that. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I got when I was a finalist, that's, I think that it's helped me get, I got an audio contract. I sold audio rights to Fortune's Fool, and that definitely helped me do that. And I think it's helped it stick around, even though I have been really bad at writing my sequel. And I'm also not that great at marketing. So, you know.
That sounds like a common refrain. We've heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I would do better if I was just out there more consistently, you know, just every day, just visibility. And even though you can't like control the outcome of any of that, like just doing more input would help. But yeah, sometimes it's hard keeping everything balanced.
So El Montague is doing our job for us and asking questions.
Thank God. Somebody needs to do it.
How do I feel about audiobooks? A super cool or scary mess. It was so it was, I mean, it was the only way, like when Tantor does the audiobook, and that was the only way there was going to be an audiobook, because they are really Fortune's Fool is large, and like if it was too large for me to make the audiobook myself, to hire somebody to do it, because it would just be too cost intensive. So when they, you know, said, hey, we want to buy the audio rights, then that was the best thing that could have happened. And they did, like, what was really the coolest part of the process was when they gave me
A check.
the narrators. Well, that was
Sorry.
nice too. I mean, you know, but when they gave me the narrators to pick from, they're like, okay, they auditioned, and like I had like 3 or 4 or 5 people read from my work, and I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty cool, and I get to pick, you know, who I want, and so I did. It's like a lot of traditional publishing in that they didn't. Tantor for a long time did like not very much marketing at all, like, you know, but they have started doing more. Like they have more social media stuff. They're running more sales and things, and so that has been better. And that's the one thing when you go, like, I know a lot of just trad authors in general say this, like you don't control anything about the process. Like as an indie, like we're used to the KDP dashboard and seeing like everything every day, and you don't like I get royalty statements. I get now they're down to I think once a year, like it's twice or once a year, so you can't really see anything that's going on.
What was the biggest frequency? Did they used to come like weekly or monthly?
They used to come quarterly, so it wasn't frequent, you know. It was, but it was. And then they went down to once, like twice a year, and I don't know. I didn't get one at the end in December, so I'm kind of thinking that maybe it's just once a year now. So it's very much out of your hands as far as like
Right.
control. There's not a whole lot of, you don't get it much.
So do you know how many people download or buy your book, or do you just have to wait until you rip open that envelope at the end of the year and get surprised?
You have to wait. They send you an email. You get the email out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, okay, that many people. And it's not like more people buy you sell more ebooks than audio. Like, I think I've heard other people say that there's like a ratio that they have, like how many ebooks and then audio to ebooks. So they I like, and then too, I got a pretty decent advance, and then but then the royalties you get are not, they're not very much. So trying to earn that out, like it hasn't, it's, I don't know, it's going to take a long time to earn that out.
Still, no, I mean, it's nice that you didn't have to mess with all of that kind of
Yeah,
stuff that like Mike
right.
had to mess with,
Yeah.
Yeah,
editing
right.
and all that. It's just
Right, because with the Alchemy of Sorrow audiobook, with the anthology that I'm part of, that Virginia McLean did, we did it together, and a bunch of other authors did as a Kickstarter, which was a really cool experience. Part of what we did for the Kickstarter was to offer the audio. I think it was a stretch goal. And since we made it, then we actually went out and hired the narrators, and then we got to listen to it. And then we split the chores,
right.
because we all had, there were 13 of us. So we just edited our own story. So it wasn't like we had to listen to edit like the whole book.
That makes it a lot more doable if it's only 1/13.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was good. We shared a lot of the work, like proofing it, proofing like the ebook, and stuff too. We got together and wrote the blurb and things like that. And then marketing is a lot easier when there's 13 people,
Yeah. Shouting
doing
about
it.
it.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
right.
when you have a company kind of option off your audio rights, how long are you giving up your IP for with that?
Well, my contract is 7 years, and then it will either renew or I'll take it back. So I think lately I've seen people where they're trying to do contracts for 10 years, but I don't know. It changed a little bit. Like because mine, I did it in 2020, and I think the audio world, that was just when audiobooks were kind of exploding. And then we had the pandemic, and then I mean, there's still like audio is still doing a lot. It does well in general. Like people need it, and I have two dyslexic kids, so I like having audio because that's how
Yeah.
they kind of learned for a long time. So but it's changed, I think, since I did mine. I think like the contracts have changed, and I'm pretty sure that like, well, with my other Through Dreams So Dark, that one hasn't sold as well, and I'm trying to figure out, like, it needs some changes that I need to make. But nobody's coming knocking on my door trying to offer me audio rights for that book right now. So
You've had it happen once. I mean, you can't get greedy about that kind of thing.
right.
So
EL is working harder than we are.
dude, the bar is really low there. Well, let's be honest with ourselves.
Okay, wait, hang on a second. What is the one thing that worked best for you in becoming the successful artist that you are, and what's the one thing you wish you'd just done differently? Gosh, I mean, thank you for saying I'm a successful artist. That sometimes that feels like, that's like a constant, like, daily thing that I, work at. So let me think. Like, I think it's just work. Like, you just, like, I don't know if that's what you're looking for or whatever, but it's just like, I think it's just about just coming back and working, like, every
Yeah.
day at whatever it is, like, okay, I've got to, and I'm going to finish the story. I'm going to write my 1,000 words. I'm going to like, and what I need to work on actually is regarding like marketing, like social media marketing the same way. Okay, I'm going to tweet. I do my one tweet today, like, cause I have a problem like dividing my brain where if I'm like really, especially if I'm really into my writing, it's hard to go on social media because sometimes I get sucked in or I like, there's like a lot of voices out there and I'm trying to like hone in on my voice and my story. And sometimes if there's too much stuff like in there, it's hard to figure out what direction I need to go in. But I think that it's like that. And then it's not all like, I think I thought before I started that it would be like a linear process. Like you'd start here and then it would go up like this. And it doesn't do that. Like it's like it went here and it was spiffy and then it went, like, and it kind of bumps around and stuff. And it's just like, I think that being a successful artist in anything is just when you get into the bumps to just keep going and then don't quit.
So, Angela, I just want to point out that EL is in most of our talks we have. He shows up, and not once has he ever called Ro or I a successful artist. So,
Nope. Nope. Not without a laughing, crying
Thank
emoji.
you.
So you said you homeschool kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thought. You
Oh, no.
teach one of them how to do social media really well.
Well, I've
You
thought
have
about
another
that.
one go down the advertising track. You get another one editing, right? You could have your own little sweatshop.
Well, I have thought like, but they're not. I don't know. They're not like. It's kind of weird. You'd think that like the teenagers, but they're more anti-social media than me. And it seems weird. Like I'm like,
Because we use it.
shouldn't I be like, But no, I mean, although YouTube, they like watch a lot of, well, I don't know, like car videos. My 10-year-old likes Minecraft playthroughs, but it's like
Watching other people
I
play
couldn't get
games.
to do that, but I have like, but on the other hand, some of my kids actually like writing, and so we do tend to like talk about writing and books and my twins. They're huge Brandon Sanderson fans and they like writing fantasy. And so, it's kind of cool. Like to get to like have like, at the, when we're having lunch or something to be able to talk, you talk shop a little bit and stuff. And, I just finished reading Rhythm of War. So I'm like caught up now. So I can read and they're going to go to college. And so I will be able to read the fifth Stormlight book before they will, because I will get it before they get home. So, but yeah.
I think you're the first person I've ever heard say they're caught up on reading.
Well, no, just caught up on on the Stormlight Archive books. I'm like at 4 and I'm like, okay, I'm done now. Where's the next one? Like, so I feel like it's kind of fun being able to tell somebody else that, like, when you say that instead of have like what I hear is like, okay, Angela, where's the next one? I'm like, I'm working as fast as I can. And they're big books. They take a while.
How often do you publish?
Well, irregularly. I try to like, it's actually, I have 4 books, but they're like, so like Fortune's Fool is 220,000 words. And then I have like 2 novellas. One of them's in the series. It's like a prequel. It's like 45,000 words. So it's almost a book. And then Dragon Meat, which is a Sphinx finalist this year, is like, it's a novella, but it's like in the bottom end of the novella. And then I have Dreams, which is, it's not quite as big as Way of Kings, but it's almost as big as Way of Kings. So, So
One of your books.
I published in 2019, my first book. So I have 4 books out, but I didn't do that. Like, it's not like I could say, oh, I do one a year, because I didn't really publish anything last year because I was trying to rescue Fool's Promise and rewrite it. So
You said one of your books was a something finalist?
Sphinx, the novella contest that's going on
Yeah.
right now. It's like Baby Bow. It's like kind of a sister contest to Spiffbo. It got started this year because Adam Holcomb said, hey, you know what? We should have a novella contest. And then a bunch of other people said, hey, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. And so they put it together. And so it's in the finals right now, the last phase. I don't know, they numbered it. Is it phase 3? Just like Spiffbo-ish? Phase 3. Anyway, so that made me really happy. Dragon Meat, my novella, is a finalist with there's 10 finalists. So.
And when do you find out about that?
I don't know, because then I have to remember a date. So.
Okay, fair enough. You got enough going on. You don't need another thing to remember.
The finals just started because it was January 31st when the finalists were picked. So we're just in the beginnings of it. Yeah. So but it's a good way. Like, if you like novellas, just go check out the Sphinx page. It's SFINCS. I think it's I don't know. I can't, like all the, when I do Spiffbo, I always have to think of and Sphinx is like, and then the science fiction contest, I have absolutely no idea what the letters are. I just call it Spacebo. So, yeah.
Nice.
Well, as long as you know what you're talking about, it's all good.
I don't know. Nobody else probably does, but yeah. Anyway, but yeah, Sphinx it's SFINCS. It's yeah.
So while Ro looks that up, question for you. Do you consider yourself to be a character first or a plot first writer or a something else first writer?
Oh, definitely character first. They walk into my brain and then they don't leave me alone, and I have to figure out their stories, and they just sort of, hang out there and not even till I'm done. Sometimes they go away they take a little vacation, but in between books while I'm working on something else, but they're always back. But definitely character.
Have you ever yelled out one of your characters' names when you meant to yell one of your kids?
No, I haven't done that, but they know, they do know, like, they know the protagonists, they know who they are, because in my Kira, the protagonist of Fortune's Fool, has a metal arm, and I got a lot of, my kids are kind of smart Alex, so I got a lot of jokes about, she has a metal arm, and a lot of jokes about the metal pinky toe and stuff like that, because they keep me honest. But
so let's see. Are you a good versus evil, or are you more of everybody's a shade of gray when you write?
A lot of gray, but leaning toward redemption, and I feel like my stories are a lot about hope, but it's one of those things where they're dark, so you can find they're about people looking for hope. They're a lot about kind of broken characters who have often made very bad decisions and done like things that they regret, and they're trying to be better. They're trying to, find the light, I guess, in the darkness. But it's hard, and they don't always do the right thing.
Well, EL is working hard again.
Now, wait, I want this good crossover between fantasy and sci-fi. That sounds like a rabbit trail waiting to happen.
Oh, well.
Are you suggesting, EL, that there's no such thing as a good crossover between fantasy and sci-fi? Because, what is Star Wars if not a crossover between fantasy and sci-fi?
I think he's saying competition-wise.
Disregard me. Never mind. Carry on.
The crossovers are always kind of like nobody knows where the sci-fi fantasies or fantasy sci-fis where to put them. So you put them in Spiffbo, or do you put them in the other contest, or both? And I think a lot of people do both. Like, I know Rob Hayes' Titan Hoppers went in both contests, I think.
I believe C.M. Kaplan also did with his
Yeah,
book.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think he did too. I think he did.
So let's see. Do you use maps often when you write? Do you have maps, or is it just all in your head? Or
I sort I have, so maps are printed in my book. I commissioned a map for each series, but trying to explain to my artist was difficult because I just sort of have general ideas of geography. Like, they go over here and there's some mountains up here, and then I don't I kind of make it up as I go, so I don't have it like totally set, like, oh, there are all these cities and I should look here and then they can go here, and I'm like, well, and then they go to this, okay, where is that city? I don't know, this is a new city, I'm just making it up, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it can be this way, and so no, I'm not a geography first writer.
but you do have maps in your book, so we
I
can be
do have
friends.
maps in my books. I do have maps I like maps as art.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of that way. And I know that there are people out there who like to look and say, okay, where are these people going now? So, I want that for my readers instead of like trying to make them think like me.
Yeah, I think they just kind of like have a vague idea in their head. So when you're talking about your characters going from one place to another, they can just have this little image of a little dotted line kind of moving across the map. Okay,
Yeah,
Frodo's here now,
right.
Um,
Traveling by map is
yeah, without
that's from another
necessarily getting
movie.
too big into the whole, well, looking at this map, this would take them much longer than that. I'm
Yeah,
sure there are people like that
yeah,
out there, but
So
right,
I
right.
saw a video of Petrick. I forget his last name. Petrick, book reviewer.
Yeah, yeah.
And I forget the book he's talking about, but he's like, they had a map in the front. He's very much a map person. He goes, but the city where 80% of the action took place was not labeled on the map.
Yeah, that's unfortunately. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, because I have, I did the map for Fortune's Fool, but now in Fool's Promise, I'm like, well, and then this city should logically exist, but I just thought it up for this book, so it's not on the map, and that's the problem. Like, if I'm not drawing my own maps, then it's harder to go back if somebody else draws it for me, to go back and edit it and like go put in. And I'm not a terrific artist, but I could probably, given enough time, produce a map. But the time it takes is the problem there, and then I would probably get frustrated because I wouldn't have enough time to do it. Like,
your city is in a pocket dimension. It doesn't show up on a two-dimensional map.
Yeah,
Sorry.
right. Well, I can say that for Dreams, because it's a portal fantasy with lots of different, universes basically. So, I can use that excuse, but not Fortune's Full, I guess.
So what tropes do you like to use or subvert when you write? Is there anything that stands out?
Well, I like tropes, and I do like to play with them a little bit. So, Fortune's Fool is Kira is a female mercenary. She disguises herself as a man, which is, big trope, like Tamara Pierce and stuff. But I do play with it a little bit, because she's not doing it because she's doing it because she's really been forced to. So she's in hiding. This is the way she's hiding. She's not really, she doesn't necessarily want to be seen as a man. She'd rather be herself, but she can't. So I guess that's
Big Jefferson Davis kind of thing going on there.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's kind of like she's she's a handful to write actually, but she does. I like to try to. There's also like the strong female character, strong female protagonist trope that I kind of like to play around with too, because that Fortune's Fool is kind of at its heart a love story. It's kind of a love story that sort of starts out with the the kind of umbrella plot is a revenge plot, but the story itself is really a love story because she's trying to find the man who kind of helped her after she had her arm cut off. She lost all her titles, and then they fell in love, and they were split apart. And he's supposed to be dead. She doesn't believe he's dead. She's looking for him. At the same time, she's trying to take revenge on the man who kind of triggered all of this in the first place and betrayed her. So I get kind of frustrated at books that treat the strong female protagonist as being a woman who just kind of rejects everything that could be seen as feminine, female, like that they don't want family life, that they don't want, like they're wearing men's clothes so that they can basically reject everything about being a woman. And that's what makes them strong. And I don't think that makes them strong at all, like those characters. And so I wanted to show like a different kind of strength where Kira's doing those things. Like she does the typical, strong female thing. She has a sword. She fights people and stuff, but she would like to have a family. She would like to have this romance at the same time. And so it sort of pulls, it's like there's a tension there trying to kind of have both.
So not a Xena warrior princess.
No, my dog's named Xena. I didn't say that. We have a dog named Xena because when we got her as a puppy, she was a girl. And at that time, I only had one girl. And so my daughter said we should name her Xena, warrior princess. And so anyway, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, my dog's named Xena.
EL asks, are you a brutally graphic author or a Flowers and Sunshine author?
I am not Flowers and Sunshine. Definitely not Flowers and Sunshine. I think I walk the line of grimdark sometimes. I don't think I go over, but it's gritty. It's kind of, there's more realism than not realism, and it does get kind of dark sometimes. It's not. I don't think it crosses the line because I'm not sure. Although some people might argue with me, but it's not like bleak or I don't know. Grimdark is such a vibe, and everybody's got their own definition of it, which is why I think that I'm on the line. And so some readers might say, "Oh yeah, like here that kind of crosses the line a little bit, Angela," and over here, no, that's not. So, I'm kind of in the middle there.
I think most people confuse grimdark for excessively gory.
Yeah, right.
When you look at some of the better kind of psychological thrillers or characters who have the most kind of fear or kind of gravitas, I guess, they don't yell. They speak very softly, right?
Yeah.
And they do things kind of slowly and methodically, right? It's not just hacking up people by the knees and things.
Right.
So yeah, I can see how people would disassociate, I guess, the one for the other or get them wrong.
Yeah, I would have an issue with people who think that like associate grimdark with just with violence in general, because I don't think that's what it is at all. Like I think there are books out there like that, but that's not all grimdark books are like that. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what, I don't know. I think it's almost, I know everybody like can argue about what constitutes grimdark and what's not grimdark for probably ever. But yeah, so I mean, like the way I would see it is, I think that it has a little bit more. I don't know. I was on a podcast once where it said that it was Steve Talks Books, and he said that his definition of grimdark, what he thought was that violence or what people did, their actions would have like realistic consequences. You know, like there's a difference between like fantasy violence. People can like die all over the place. Like, you know, there can be wars with huge body counts, and that's not grimdark. That can be like high fantasy. But in a grimdark novel, like, you know, you might have a much lower body count, but the consequences of the actions and the descriptions of like when people die and what kind of effect this has in the emotional state of everybody around it is going to be much more on the realistic side. There's going to be a lot more trauma, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, watching John Wick, right? I think the first John Wick movie, the body count was somewhere in the 70s, and just, you know, kept walking down the street. It's like,
Right.
what street is this? You
Yeah.
know, what city is this in that nobody just lets them walk away, or, you know?
I know. It's like when I watch, like, my husband really likes cozy mysteries, so we watch a lot of British.
Oh yeah.
You know, like we watch British crime, but we also watch like, you know, like Father Brown or something. And what's weird about
lovely idyllic little villages with 12 people and have somebody dying every other day.
They're like dying every week, and then they like have this like contest, and somebody gets killed, and then they just like go on with the contest, and they're like, oh no, she was poisoned. And you're like, but if somebody really did that, if somebody like died poisoned, everybody would be like traumatized. You know, you'd have to have therapy. It's just, so I don't know. I like watching them, but they're kind of funny. Like, it's hard for me to turn off the gritty, right? Going like, what are they doing? Like, nobody's affected by this.
What is it? I mean, okay, so I'm looking at writing a cozy at some point, and I'm torn between putting it in New England or putting it in England, like Old England or New England. And there's something about having it in the English countryside, like EL said, that's just super appealing, right? Because if you've ever been to the countryside, nothing around, right? And I mean, you just have these old houses, and, you know, with freaking thatched roofs and stone floors, and, you know, staircases that are all wonky, and and then you get these words like wonky.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, it's kind of, it is kind of funny. Like, I've never been to England, and, you know, apologies to anybody from like England who's from the UK who's watching, but you watch all of those shows, you're like, man, I am never walking down a towpath next to a river ever if I go to England, because I will die. You know, it'd be like, no, don't do that. Don't go there.
Only from hay fever, nothing else.
I don't know. It's kind of funny, but it's. On the other hand, he likes these, and I watch them with him. You know, and we watch them as a family, and then they kind of they're kind of worming their way into my writing. So I feel like I'm having a little bit more murder mystery stuff come into my writing, but like, you know, through the fantasy, not cozy lens. Right. I guess it's probably more like a British crime show, but.
My wife and I were watching one. She's British, and we watch this stuff all the time. And it was a police procedural, right? But a British police procedural. And every 10 minutes, I was just like, if they had guns, this wouldn't be happening. You know, if these cops had a freaking gun, they'd be okay.
My
you wouldn't have to worry. You know,
a long time ago, I was watching a movie, and you know, like, I have a lot of people in my family and friends that kind of do the MST3K things with movies, and, you know, we're watching one, and like she's like the cops running and she's like, stop, or else say stop again. So
Right.
that's what goes through my mind whenever I'm watching anything like that. So stop, or I'll say stop again.
Kelly Cameron.
So I know that your book Fortune's Fool is in Renaissance Italy, more or less, right?
Yeah,
Show us the
yeah.
cover. You got a copy there? That you can
Yeah,
hold
I
up?
do actually. Let me see.
Is your other series, is that also Renaissance Italy, or is that totally different?
No, it's different. So Fortune's Fool has right now it's like two books. These are both Kira books. So this is like Fortune's Fool has a past and a present narrative, and this one happens in the middle of it, the past and present. So it's standalone. If you don't want to read a giant book, you can start there, and it would be fine. But the other series is no. So the other series is a Portal Fantasy, and it is actually starts out in Illinois in 1988, and the main character of that one, which I have that one too. This one is big, but it's he is the son of his family are Soviet defectors. So, and then his mother is missing, and when is supposed went missing when they escaped, and he was small, and he has decided that he thinks she's still alive and she's somewhere, and he's gonna look for her, and he gets embroiled in all of these kind of shady governmental spy kind of conspiracy MK Ultra kind of things, and then ends up actually finding out, like actually going through a into a different reality. It's not an alternate reality. This is a little bit more fantasy because it's through a place that like links like a whole bunch of different worlds, which is called the Lake of the World, and it's kind of the lake itself is a character in the book. Kind of, it's sort of a sentient place that doesn't, if it doesn't like you, it's kind of not good. So it doesn't really like him much. He has a hard time. So he ends up. So it's kind of weird, and I think people think it's a little weird because it starts out being kind of more urban fantasy, paranormal, historical. It starts out in 1988. You're college students, and then when they go across, as they go through, a portal, then it turns into basically an epic fantasy. There's a lot of epic fantasy that goes on. It's a world that's kind of has two groups that have been at war with each other for many, many years. They're separated by a wall, kind of like, in our world, I kind of took Cold War references and kind of built them kind of fantasy wise, with a lot of different weird kind of quantum physics inspired magic that's kind of loosely inspired, but like things like the wall doesn't stay in the same place. It moves. So you can't predict when it moves. It just moves. Like you don't know exactly where it's going to be at any given time, and that has consequences.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. So you said you have a book coming out here soon because it's going to the proofreader by the end of the week.
Yeah.
And then what's next after that?
Well, after that, then yeah, I don't know. Like this book has been, this book is the one that I'm working on now. Book 2, Fool's Promise, was a pandemic book, and I started writing it, and I got to a place, and it was like one of those things that I was like, a lot of times I would hit places where I was just like, I feel like burning this book. It's just like, I'm just gonna, because I was really stuck on it. It wasn't like at that point when you think those things, just back away slowly. Like, don't burn your book. So, but I finally figured it out. So it's taken me a long time to get through it. And it starts thinking of something on the other side is kind of like strange and wonderful. But so I'll be working on book 3. after this one, which I've already kind of broken ground on that. I've kind of like I make scene lists to begin with. I don't do like real strict outlines, but I'll have like scenes that I kind of think of that I want to deal with, and I like make lists of those and kind of think about, like I'll been reading books and stuff to kind of get started. But I have two other novellas that I'm like in the middle of with Kira. And I need to finish those. So I have to decide which one. One of them is, I thought it was done. I was going to write it for Alchemy Star, then I realized it was going to be way too long. And so I did something else. So I need to go back to that one, which will probably be a newsletter novella. And the other one is kind of like comes after Smuggler's Fortune. And I need to finish those, but I think probably people will want me to write book 3. So that may be one of those things where I'm kind of working on everything all at once. Like if I get stuck on one, I'll jump onto the other one and kind of.
So I have one last burning question for you.
Okay.
We found out when we were interviewing the Spiffbo 9 authors that they have their own chat room that they can talk to amongst themselves. Did you have that for Spiffbo 5?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think we were the ones who started it actually. Because
Nice.
Virginia McLean, she got us together. We were going to do a sale, like, like a promo. And we just kind of kept the chat, and it still exists. And we used to talk to each other like every day. We don't talk to each other every day now, but the chat is still there, and we'll hop on it every now and then and talk to each other. We're all friends. So, yeah, it's kind of, that was sort of a necessity to get through Spiffo finals. It was nice. And 2020, because the finals ended in the pandemic. Like they ended, it was like April 30th was our last day.
All right. Yeah.
And yeah, so we had March and April
Nice.
of
Do you have
2020.
your coin?
I do. It's right here. I've got my,
What?
yeah.
This is what everyone covets.
Yeah, it's the coin.
Hold it right up.
Can let's see.
What's on the backside?
It's just same. It's just green.
Ah, look at that.
I like the blue side. I don't know why. I like the blue side better. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So,
yeah.
well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Ro, do you have any other pressing questions?
I don't, but thank you for what you do. 9 kids, damn. Get some rest.
I will
sorry.
try.
Have a bottle of wine.
Sorry, we forgot to ask EL. He has one more question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the third interviewer.
You're not getting any royalties, man.
Is your network to your writing publishing? It's been, I think there's a misconception that writers write, they're like solitary and they do it all themselves. Because our book, there's maybe only one name on the cover, right? But books are the product of lots and lots of people, and I couldn't put my books together without the help of a ton of people, like people who will help me read it, or people like cover artists and editors, and just people who will listen when you have problems or whatever. And then people who will introduce you to more people, so that, there's always some things, and people who are expert readers. Like my books are so much better because people read it who had expertise in some of the things that I was doing, and they're like, no, this doesn't really work. And then, through talking to them, I can make the characters deeper and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't think my books, they're not just me. They're like a whole bunch of people. My name's on the cover, but I couldn't do this just by myself.
Okay. Well, Angela, is there anything that you wanted to say that we didn't ask you? That, here's your chance to put in stuff that we missed.
No, I think we got it. That was a lot. Like we went a lot of places. That was cool. It was fun. I had fun.
I have one last question, and it's absolutely silly.
Okay.
But
Go.
I know, shocking. growing up, I was one of 4 boys, and my mom would always say, Tim, Tom, Mike, Dan, and then the 5th name was the actual person who's in trouble.
Yeah.
Do you do that with all 9 of your
Oh, yeah.
kids?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I have twins, they're identical twins, and sometimes, like they get kind of annoyed because if you look at them from behind, sometimes you can't tell who you're looking at. And so, they will kind of roll their eyes and be like, "No, I'm not Nate, I'm Jake. No, I'm not Jake," like whatever. And you're like, okay, all right. But yeah, no, I go through all the names.
Mike, we have 5 cats. I've been called by the cat's name.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That too.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you spending 70 minutes dorking around
thanks.
with us here.
No, I had fun. This was a lot of fun.
I have to say, you were unfortunately the victim here. We had 10 straight guys as guests. So we were not well behaved. So you were the first woman since
fine.
December.
You're fine.
We've been on our best behavior,
Everything's
if you can
good.
believe that.
Everything's good.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I
thank
had
you,
this was a
Angela.
lot of fun.
And
Yeah,
love to
thanks
have
for
you on
having me.
again sometime. Next time you have a book coming out, let us know. And
Thank you. Okay.
that means you have to hurry and finish it sooner so that you can be back on sooner.
Okay. Okay.
Because with
I'll
all
work
of
on it.
this.
I'll work on it.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
everyone wave awkwardly,
All
and
right.
we'll